Well, the Georgia Bulldogs face off against the Florida Gators this weekend. And this is going to be an exciting matchup, guys. But before we get into the video, would you guys please like, share, subscribe to the channel? And by doing so, it really helps out my channel and it helps me grow as a content creator. This is a matchup that I look forward to each and every year, and it's finally here. And I'm going to get into the stats for the game. Of course, Georgia's the #1 team in the country. They're just coming off a national championship win, and they're still the reigning champs. And they look pretty good all season, guys. And we'll just give out some stats for the game that they're playing in. And of course, Florida, a team that I thought was going to have a high ceiling this season, but unfortunately, they lost all of their big games so far. So I'm gonna get into the stats. Of course, Georgia has Stetson Bennett. So far he's thrown for 2,033 yards this season with 7 touchdowns and 1 interception. So great experience at the quarterback position for Georgia. Like I said, coming off a championship run, and knows the offense, and had some struggles early on in the season, but now they're clicking on all cylinders, both offensively and defensively. And they're looking like the #1 team in the country right now. You can make a case for it. And Florida has, Anthony Richardson, who's only thrown for 1,367 yards with 6 touchdowns but 7 interceptions. Like I said, is struggling passing the ball. Keeps turning over the ball, and it's not going to bode well going against one of the best defenses in the country in Georgia. At running back, Florida has Montrell Johnson. He has 425 yards with 7 touchdowns. Great running back. Georgia has Dijon Edwards, and he has 334 yards with 5 touchdowns. So we all know Georgia always has a good running game, and Dijon Edwards is definitely doing the part for them. And they got some other guys too that's some beasts on the field too. Florida has Justin Shorter at wide receiver. He has 405 yards with 2 touchdowns on the season. And Georgia has Brock Bowers. We all know, great tight end, 393 total yards with 2 touchdowns. So I expect Georgia to get him, more receptions and everything in this game, especially against Florida. Florida is averaging 31.4 points per game. Georgia is averaging 41.7 points a game. So Georgia has the advantage in scoring points per game. Points allowed, Florida is allowing 28.1. Georgia's only allowing 9.1. So, like I said, even though Georgia lost a lot of guys to the draft last season, they still have a great top 10 defense, and holding teams to 9 points. That's not far off from last year, guys. So Georgia's looking the part defensively. Total yardage a game, Florida's averaging 430 yards per game. Georgia's averaging 426.6 yards per game. So Georgia has the advantage there. And they're averaging, if you were to break that down for Georgia, they're averaging 329 through the air, and they're averaging 196 on the ground. So very balanced attack. You got to be able to stop the run and the pass with Georgia. On the flip side, Florida is averaging 217 passing yards through the air, and they're averaging 213 on the ground. So they're averaging more rushing yards on the ground than Georgia, but Georgia has the advantage in passing yards on the ground. In the air. So yards allowed, Florida's allowing 429 points a game. Georgia's only allowing 247. So Georgia has the advantage there. And if you was to break that down, Florida is allowing 244 through the air, and they're allowing 185 on the ground. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this matchup. Georgia, on the other hand, is only allowing 163 yards through the air, and they're averaging only 83 yards on the ground. So Georgia has a great run defense, and a good pass defense, just good defense all around. So it's going to be key things in this matchup that we got to look at. Like I said, Florida's coming off a loss to LSU. They lost 45-35. Of course, that was a good matchup. Those teams are always going to play each other good. They're both cross-division opponents, and Florida failed to get the victory in that matchup. And I'm looking at their schedule. The only victories that Florida has gotten so far is against Missouri and EWU, a smaller school, and like I said, they took a loss to Tennessee. They played Tennessee close, but Tennessee pretty much had their game in hand. They just allowed Florida to come back. Tennessee's defense is not up to par, but they played them close, but they took the loss there. So both of their biggest opponents they lost to. On the other hand, Georgia has beaten South Carolina. They've beaten Missouri. They've beaten Auburn. They beat Auburn pretty good. They only held Auburn to 10 points, and they beat Vanderbilt. So if I'm looking at the schedule, their toughest test is going to be against Florida. So that's why this matchup is going to be interesting. We're going to see what happens in the matchup. I'm looking at, the total stats, from their last games. Let me see, Georgia. Yeah, Stetson Bennett threw for 289 yards, 2 touchdowns against Vanderbilt. Dejon Edwards had like 49 yards rushing with a touchdown. And Kenny McIntosh had 43 yards and a touchdown. So they only got 192 yards rushing against Vanderbilt, though. So that can be something to look forward to in this game, But Florida has struggled, stopping the run themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this matchup. On the other hand, Florida, Anthony Richardson was able to pass for 185 yards and a touchdown, and he was their leading rusher against LSU with 109. So Georgia's going to have to account for Anthony Richardson running out the pocket, So we're going to have to see what happens. But I'm looking at the spread for the game right now. They have it at minus 22. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I've had to give my prediction. I'm thinking, of course, I'm picking Georgia to win this game. And I think Georgia's going to win big, guys. Like I said, minus 22, I can definitely see that. Maybe scoring a little bit more than that. I'm thinking 41-17. I don't think Florida will have enough to win this game. Anthony Richardson has proven that he can pass the ball. He passed on Tennessee, but Tennessee doesn't have nowhere near the defense that Georgia has. And I don't see Anthony Richardson having a good day passing the ball. And it's going to force him to try to pass it, and I think that's going to turn to turnovers and give Georgia a short field. And I just see Georgia just mauling them with the run game once they get that established, and I can see it getting ugly, guys. I wish Anthony Richardson had lived up to the hype of being able to pass the ball downfield, but he just turns the ball over too much, and that's not going to bode well against this Georgia team. I think Georgia wins big. Like I said, 41-17. And that'll be over the spread that they have. But what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. And if you haven't, guys, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. And I'll definitely be back with more college football content. Thanks, guys, and roll tide.